information you read. Where it's, is gluten good or is gluten bad? Are we supposed to eat eggs every day, or are eggs gonna kill us? Like, what's the deal with seed oils? Right, there's a lot of information out there, and you can find a research article on anything to support any idea when it comes to nutrition, which makes it very confusing to know what the heck to do, right? So today I'm gonna try to simplify nutrition as much as possible for you. But if you're also somebody that wants to really, you feel like you have a good understanding of nutrition and you're like, I want to take it to the next level, I'm also going to give you that option as well here, okay? But first and foremost, I am a real life nutritionist. I don't think that nutrition is ever going to be perfect. I don't think that things can always be organic and pasture raised and free of seed oils and this, that, and the other thing, okay? It's just not the reality of life. Okay, for any of us, right? I have 3 small kiddos at home, so no, not everything in my house is homemade, okay? And I don't expect that of anybody else, right? And if you ever see me out and about, please do not hide your plate from me. I really don't know what I'm eating, okay? But if you need a restaurant guide, I wrote the restaurant guide and Hannah formatted it so that you can take it with you.
It's
okay?
purse friendly.
It is. Or what do men wear?
Merce.
Cross body bag.
Merce.
All right, so before I even touch into what a carbohydrate is or what a protein is, I want to take a moment to talk about mindset, because I think mindset is the most important thing when we're talking about any goal, you guys. When we're talking about if you have a career goal, if you have a relationship goal, if you have a health and fitness goal, where's your mind at? Because speaking negatively to yourself is not going to get you where you want to go, right? So I just want to urge you to start taking a look at what is your mind telling you about the goal that you're having. If you have a goal, but in your mind you're like, oh, this is so hard, I'm never going to make it, like I'm a failure anyway, so why should I even try? Or I've tried this 10 times before, what's going to make this time different? You're giving your body negative information. So I want us to try to flip the switch on that and start being a little bit more positive, especially when we talk about weight, okay? A lot of times people come in here and we ask, what's your goal? And a lot of times, not all the time, it's to lose weight. A lot of times, thank goodness, it's to be stronger and to be able to feel strong in our body. But there is a lot of times this conversation about weight. And your body is the only thing that's with you from start to finish, right? And so instead of thinking of like losing weight or dropping body fat, can we change it to how do you want to feel? Do you want to be strong? Do you want to be able to keep up with your kids or your grandkids? Do you want to be somebody that is going into their 60s, 70s, 80s, and is able to walk upright without a cane, travel, right? That comes from your health. That has absolutely nothing to do with how much you weigh or the size of your pants, okay? So I want you to start framing goals, especially around health, in a positive aspect of not what do you want to lose, but what do you want to gain, right? So if you ever want to set a goal well, set a SMART goal, right? It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, you're doing it in a timely manner, and it's realistic, right? And if you can write out your goal in that way, you'll get there, all right? And the last thing I want you to think about when you have that goal is why. All of you guys stepped into Spanga at some point in time for your first class ever. Maybe it was your friend brought you, or you got a free class, or whatever. But something made you stay. You had a goal. You had a reason for being here. And connecting to that is really, really important, right? We come in here because we want community. We come in here because it's fun. We come in here because we want to challenge ourselves, and we're feeling stuck, and this is going to help us change it. But why are you wanting things, all right? Why? What drove you to keep coming back here? What drove you to sign up for Youth vs. You this year? Think about that. What is your reason? And I will tell you, it has nothing to do with your weight or how heavy those weights are. That's not why you're doing something at all, okay? So think about that and kind of really hone in on that. Because when you know why you're doing something, sacrificing for that goal becomes a lot easier, right? We all have to sacrifice to show up here. We have to sacrifice time, sacrifice money, let's face it. So any goal that we have, you have to sacrifice, all right? I want to say you can get your cake and you can eat it too, but it's not exactly how the world works. So have that why, have that reason be so strong that you're able to stay focused on it and let go of and make certain sacrifices and not make certain excuses. All right. So I'm gonna break down your macros. Last year I went really, really in depth into like what are your macros, like what is food. So I'm gonna give you a very brief overview of that. So your macros, you have 3 macros: protein, fat, carbohydrates. I always say there's a 4th macro, which is fiber, but fiber falls under carbohydrates. So protein, it helps to build, repair your muscles, your organs, your tissues. It is literally the building block of what keeps you upright. All right, that's your protein. Carbohydrates is your primary energy source. Carbohydrates breaks down into glucose. Glucose gives your body energy. It's as simple as that. They're not good, they're bad. They just give your body energy. And then we have fat. Fat can also be used as energy when glucose is not available. But fat is what's gonna help support your hormones. It's gonna support your brain health. It's gonna support your cellular structure. So fat is our friend. Goodbye to the 80s and 90s where everything was fat-free. That was kind of funny. Come on, you guys. Woo! All right, I will work a little bit harder at that. Fiber. Thank you, Shannon. Fiber is what gives you bulk. It's what helps keep things moving through your digestive tract. I made it 10 minutes into this without mentioning bowel movements. But you need to poop regularly, and fiber helps you do that, all right? To have a healthy bowel movement, you need fat, fiber, and fluid, all right? Just remember that. So I won't break down why you need that, but it just keeps things moving. Think of a tube, all right? And then you can see on this picture, like there are some foods, right? Not everything is just a protein or just a carbohydrate, right? Take nuts, for example. They have protein and fat in them. Eggs are gonna have protein and fat in them. Grains have protein and carbohydrates. So not every food is just a single macronutrient. There's a lot of, oftentimes, 2 or 3 macronutrients present, all right? So macro cheat sheet, this is just kind of saying like how many calories are in each one. So protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, and then fat has 9 calories per gram. So, you know, an avocado is this big and it's probably 100 calories. And then if you look at 100 calories of chicken, it's, you know, a little bit more substantial. So fat is just a little bit denser, so you need less of it. All right, so I'm gonna say this right now. This is a nittier, grittier formula for figuring out your body's needs from a caloric level. I'm gonna show you a much easier version of this, but this is if you went to a dietitian or somebody like that, this is oftentimes the calculation they will use to figure out what your body needs. It all starts with BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. That is, I always say, if you were in a coma, that's what your body needs simply to maintain a coma, okay? So most people, again, I'm not gonna make anybody raise hands, most people did an in-body scan at the start of the University Challenge. On that sheet, it will show you what your basal metabolic rate is. It's what your body needs simply to function. And then we add on activity from there, so that's the center. So you have your basal metabolic rate, you multiply it by like your activity factor, which is just say your BMR is 1,500 calories a day, and then your activity level is another 700. So you would need 2,200 calories to just maintain, not gain, not lose, just maintain. And then from that, you can set your goal of either if you're wanting to lose fat, or if you're somebody that wants to lose muscle, or if you just want to maintain where you are. I want to make a note about that BMR. Many people want to rev up or speed up their metabolism, right? Sound kind of familiar? It's not going to come from like adding cinnamon to your coffee or anything like that. I know, right? Fat burning foods is a myth, I'm sorry. But to actually increase your basal metabolic rate, anybody know what you need to do? Increase muscle mass. So that in-body scan took your muscle mass to help figure out, so that in-body scan gets you a very specific BMR. This is more of an estimation. So if you were to say you're that 1,500 calorie BMR, right? If you added on muscle and didn't do anything else, that BMR is gonna increase. Your body needs more energy to just maintain. Make sense? So this is like the main reason, right? Yes, muscle is great for your structure. Your muscle is what can predict your longevity. Like your muscle mass is so important to your overall health. And if you really want your body to speed up, we want to put on more lean muscle. So I say pay more attention to muscle than you do fat, especially in a U versus U challenge, that's 8 weeks. You can see more changes in muscle mass than say in fat loss. Fat loss is a slower process, right? You can still see that happen in 8 weeks, absolutely. It's just a slower process. We're putting on muscle. You can kind of see those gains a little bit quicker. Make sense? All right. Here we go. So here's the super simple version of how to calculate your BMR, and you don't have to change anything to, what's that other system that they use? No, metric. What's the other version of metric?
Kelvin? No, that's
whatever.
That's
I don't know. It's grams, Okay, so you take your body weight and you times it by 11. That's your BMR. That's your basal metabolic rate. To maintain, you just add 500 calories. And then if you wanted to lose weight, you would subtract 250 from that number. If you wanted to build muscle, you would add 300. There you go. That's what calorie range you're kind of looking for in a day. Yes?
What if you want to lose weight and build muscle?
You make sure you're getting your protein in.
Okay.
So if you are wanting to lose fat while building muscle, you want to be in a caloric deficit. What does a caloric deficit mean? It just means you're eating below your maintenance. It is not below your basal metabolic rate. Okay? Do not ever eat below your basal metabolic rate, please. So it's a caloric deficit from your maintenance calories, all right? So that's how you lose weight, because your muscle or your body has to look somewhere for the added energy, okay? But if we want to preserve muscle and even put on muscle, then we need to make sure that we're eating enough protein that our body doesn't look to our muscles for energy. Because if you're eating in a caloric deficit and you're not eating enough protein, your body's going to be like, well, let me just go into this muscle, okay? So that's why protein intake becomes really, really important when we're talking about weight loss, so that you're losing fat, not losing muscle. Because why do we not want to lose muscle? Because it'll slow the metabolic rate, and it contributes to aging. So
how much,
Yeah.
how much protein overall will a body?
well, I'm glad you asked, because that's what you really are. You literally, thank you. I think
Good segue.
no, it was a beautiful segue. So, finding your macros. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. So, easiest formula for figuring out how much protein you need is take your body weights and add a gram, right? So if you're 140 pounds, you need 140 grams of protein. Does that sound like a lot to some people? Yes. I created meal plans for you. So with the U versus U challenge, and if you did an in-body scan, if you have it and you are looking for a meal plan, we can definitely chat. But I kind of lay it out for you of how to get all that protein in. So yeah, so the first thing is that you wanna know how much protein you have. I always say if you're somebody that doesn't like tracking your food, try to just track your protein and know how much protein you're eating in a day. So, your protein, say, what is my example here? 160 pounds. So you need 160 grams of protein. So that's gonna be 640 calories from protein in the day. All right, so that's what that person is gonna need. And then if we go to fat, what?
Yeah, why is it times 4?
Times 4 calories, because there's 4 calories in every gram of protein.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
so that's just calories, 640 calories from protein. So then we go to fat. So fat is more of a range. You can kind of, if you're somebody that really like, I love fat. Give me avocados, like I'm good. I am not so much a pasta grain person. I much rather have more fat on things than carbohydrates. So I would go more to 35% of my calories from fat. If you're somebody that you're like, I love my bowl of pasta and I can forego butter, then you can go like 20%. So you would just times your daily caloric need, so that basal metabolic rate plus your activity level, and then to where your goal is gonna give you that daily calories. So in this example, it's almost 1,600 calories a day, times 0.3, so 30% from fat. So that's 470 calories or 52 grams of fat in a day that this person would want. And then all the other calories would be carbohydrates.
I have a question. Is there an optimum time that you need to be eating? Let's say Christina always says like after a session, you need to eat your protein like within an hour or something like that.
So the old school of thought is that you wanted to have protein about an hour after your workout. You still do want to get protein in, you want to get food in after your workout. Your body's kind of looking for energy. But now timing, the research at least is showing that the timing of it isn't as important. So as long as you're hitting your protein goal at the end of the day, how much protein you're getting in when doesn't matter so much. I would say the aim is kind of for 30 grams of protein at a meal, and if you're a larger person or if you're met some of my men in the room, like you might be 35, 40 grams of protein per meal to get all your protein in at the end of the day. But yes, I always say like if you can get like a protein shake in an hour after a Spangus session, that would be great.
Does it matter where your protein comes from? I mean, as opposed to like meat versus veggies or legumes or whatever? No, doesn't matter.
It's just harder sometimes if you're completely plant-based. Like beans and rice and grains and lentils, sometimes it's a little bit more volume of food. So as long as you're able to handle that, that's fine. And then the only thing too is that protein just is a little bit more bioavailable to your body. It's a little bit easier for your body to break down and utilize the amino acids, versus it has to work a little bit harder to break down plant proteins. That's all. That's the only big difference. Yeah.
What about before exercise?
Yeah, before exercise, honestly, the only thing you don't want a ton of before working out is fat. So carbohydrates, because the carbs are going to give you that glucose energy when you're working out, so your body can break that down faster. Fat takes longer to break down. So generally, like some protein and carbohydrates before. Are you like an early bird? Or are you?
No, 9 or 10.
So you haven't had breakfast at all?
No,
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yes.
Because I find it hard to exercise if I eat.
Yeah. I feel like the intermittent fasting conversation also needs to be a whole different topic. So if you don't want something heavy, that's fine. I would just say not eating until 11 or 12, especially as a female, can be tricky for the body. Our hormones, men can go longer than us without eating and be perfectly fine. Women, our hormones are just a little bit more sensitive. That's, I know. So, and you're really not gonna like me because I am gonna tell you that you need to eat before coffee. So if you're drinking coffee in the morning and you're not eating, whew, your hormones are gonna hate you. So we can talk about that more. I talked about that last year. But yeah,
So what, if you aren't a breakfast eater, you know, when you first get up and you do have
Mhm.
coffee, if we're supposed to eat something, like what could it be that's,
a quick protein shake,
okay, okay.
protein and some almond milk, regular milk, whatever you want. Like a quick scrambled egg, hard-boiled egg,
Probably
something.
better with a protein.
Something. Because the other thing
Dishes.
too, okay, I swear I'm gonna try to keep to time. So the thing is that when we wake up, the first thing we want to prioritize is blood sugar control, okay? If you go for coffee with nothing on your stomach, your blood sugar actually spikes because you're spiking your cortisol.
Even
So you-
with black coffee?
Yes. So your cortisol is what wakes you up. So your cortisol, you get a jolt of cortisol, it wakes you up. Your cortisol level peaks 2 hours after you wake up. Coffee spikes your cortisol. Cortisol releases glucose into your bloodstream. So you just spiked your blood sugar without eating anything, and you're now having an insulin response. So you're already spiking your blood sugar, and then you're not eating. So now your body's like, oh my God, where am I getting energy? So it's spiking glucose, or it's spiking cortisol so that glucose comes into your bloodstream. So your body's like, oh, I have energy again. Please eat before coffee. I cannot say it enough. It can really.
What do you have with your coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
That's cheap.
So, would the same thing be for like an energy drink too in the morning?
Caffeine.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's caffeine's having that response. Coffee can just be very acidic and harsh on the stomach, especially on an empty stomach. But same thing, energy
That's why I
drinks.
prefer Red Bull.
You and my husband, yeah. So, do you have tea or what do you have? I do a dandelion blend and then I add collagen to it. But yeah, I had a very unhealthy relationship with coffee, and I'll have it every once in a while, but it is a treat. It just was not, my adrenals were shot and my hormones were a mess, and I was like, all right, this just is not working.
So what neutralizes the coffee that some of us have to have? I get out of bed, that's the reason I get out, is that coffee.
I know.
Try mushroom coffee.
Has anybody ever?
I used to make a coffee protein shake.
So, I'm gonna challenge you guys to I'm gonna try to challenge your thought process. You wake up dehydrated. Okay, you haven't had anything to drink all night. You wake up dehydrated. Dehydration makes us feel tired. So a lot of times we think the coffee is waking us up, and maybe it is, but if you grabbed water, good old water, drank some water, had a little bit of food, and then reached for your coffee, that would be a lot better.
What about a protein bar?
Yeah.
That's okay, with your coffee.
If you have it with and we slowly are making progress, I'm good with it.
Okay, good.
This is probably the area that people hate me the most in when I say this stuff. I teach 5:30 a.m. I know almost every single one of them. They come in with coffee. And I'm like, so you ate at 5 a.m.? They're like, nope. So carbohydrate, T-fill, and the rest. All right? That is how to get a very specific understanding of your macronutrients. Or like I said, just pay attention to protein and do away with the rest. All right, so if you just leave here and you're like, okay, gram of protein per pound of weight, and you execute that for the next couple weeks, I'm happy. Because I promise you, just focusing on that protein will shift a lot of the other things for you too, okay? Because when you focus on the protein and you realize how much protein you actually need to get in a day, you're gonna be, one, you're gonna be full, you're gonna be satiated, so you might not be reaching for some of the snacks. You'll have a little bit more energy, and it's just like, you won't be, you know, hungry and sliding through in and out or something. I don't know where you will be.
What about those protein bars you have?
The David bars?
Yeah.
I think they're great.
The balls you brought.
Oh, yeah, in
Did
the
you
morning?
eat that for breakfast?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
You're like, I like those.
Check this out.
100%. It's oftentimes why I have them, because I'm up early and I need to eat before I work out, and I don't want something heavy, so I'll just
Right.
pop 1 or 2 of those and it helps.
How about tea, like green tea or things
What?
like that? I mean, to take it before, like in the morning.
Yeah, it's a lower amount. Green tea obviously still has a level of caffeine. I would say it has kind of one of the least amounts, so I'm okay with tea. She's like, give me something. So this is just kind of a visual of how to build a plate. So we want balance with our plate. The reason that non-starchy vegetables takes up that much space is that they literally take up that much space on the plate. But we want to look for, do we have our protein? Do we have a carbohydrate? And do we have a fat? And then as long as you have some kind of like vegetable, you're gonna always have a fiber source as well. So fiber is gonna be in your grains, your lentils, your beans, your fruits, your veggies, all right? So that's where your fiber is gonna come from. And then that's just how to kind of build a plate. The other reason that we want kind of multiple macronutrients on the plate is again coming back to that blood sugar talk. So I always use the example of an apple. Does everybody think an apple's healthy?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. So take a perfectly healthy apple and you eat it. Your blood sugar is gonna go up to here, okay? So you take that same apple and you have it with some peanut butter. Now that spike's only here. So combining your foods is really important too, all right? So when we have carbohydrates by themselves, they jump higher than if you paired it with protein and fat, the jump's gonna be lower. And we kind of want this nice little wave when we talk about blood sugar, because if our blood sugar is doing this, our insulin is doing this, our hormones are doing this. Versus spike, valley, which is where most people are. We're on like a freaking blood sugar roller coaster every single day. So let's get off the roller coaster and just like go on cruise control, all right? So that's the easiest way to think about blood sugar. So when you're reaching for something, be like, okay, do I have 2 macronutrients present? Do I have protein and fat? Do I have carbs and fat? Do I have carbs and protein? Okay? Does that make sense? Because that's actually very important. So kind of a meal plan framework is breakfast. We really want protein, fiber, and healthy fat. Again, this is your first meal of the day, so why is breakfast breakfast? We're breaking the fast. Doesn't matter how long that fast is, we're breaking the fast. So we want to make sure that we're not spiking blood sugar right out the gate. So protein, fiber, healthy fat. That'll help keep that blood sugar nice and stable from the get-go. Lunch, protein, complex carb, veggies. Snacks, I always say make it protein-based and have it kind of have some kind of fiber source to it. That's like same thing with the veggies out there. Like veggies are great and healthy, but veggies as a snack, honestly, is quite pointless for 2 reasons. Right? It's perfectly healthy, but one is it's not giving you a lot of energy. It's fiber, which is great, but it's not giving your body kind of any fuel that it needs. So if we take those same veggies and we pair it with something like the Greek yogurt and the cottage cheese, now we have that protein. And more than that, we also have a little bit of fat in that cottage cheese because veggies have a lot of fat-soluble vitamins. All your A, D, E, and K are all your fat-soluble vitamins. If you are eating a vegetable without a fat source, your body can't use the nutrients in the vegetable because there's no fat to pull the nutrients in, okay? So, but again, it's like, right, we're all like, celery's fantastic. Not on its own. Like add some peanut butter or add like the ranch dip, and that makes celery, one, taste better because celery just tastes like nothing without it. And you're actually then able to like pull the nutrients out. So that's why combining foods is actually very, very important. Dinner is gonna be protein, veg, optional, starch, fat. You know, a lot of times I think we make dinner the biggest meal of the day, but dinner actually doesn't need to be that big because all you gotta do is make it to bedtime. So your body only needs a little bit of energy to get you there, and then to also keep that blood sugar stable throughout the night. All right, so if you want a screenshot, now would be a good time to screenshot. This is how to hit your protein goals. I'm going to show you how to hit your protein goals at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This is just showing you the protein side of things. It's not necessarily showing a complete meal, but this is how you would hit that 30 to 40 grams at every single meal. All right? And when you do this, here's lunch. When you do this, it becomes a lot less daunting, right? So this is 3 meals, about 40 grams. It's 120 grams by the end of the day, and then you have a couple snacks, right? And then, you know, adjust portions based on what you need. If you need a little bit more, you don't have to add something new. You just take the 4 to 5 ounces of chicken and maybe you make it 6. There you go. And that extra ounce of chicken is going to be, you know, about 9, 10 more grams of protein. So that's the easiest way to start hitting those goals, and it doesn't make it seem so ridiculous or like you have to sit at the table and eat steak all day. No, you don't. And then here's dinner. Like I said, it doesn't have to be complicated. Nutrition can be very nuanced if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. I will say the coffee thing is probably the only odd thing I'm more of a stickler of than anything else. And I know 98% of people will not listen to me, and that's fine. 2% of people that do will be like, oh, that's why she said this. All right, so protein tips. Batch cook your proteins. You know, pick a day or pick 2 days a week where you just cook up a couple chicken breasts, or you just like, I'm a weird person, but I will combine ground turkey and ground beef, because like ground beef is like a little too heavy and ground turkey is a little too bland. So I kind of will mix them together, and I actually really like that mixture, and I will just like season it up different ways. Like you can make it into more of like a taco meat one night, or you can throw it into like some pasta sauce another night. So, you know, batch cook what you can. Hard-boiled eggs are one that, if you have an Instant Pot and you've never hard-boiled an Instant Pot,
You can also do it in the air fryer.
or the air fryer, that just scares me. I
I
don't know why.
You
I
can
feel
hard
like
boil
it's
eggs
gonna
in the
blow
air.
up.
I know it's scary, but it does work.
But just kind of batch what you can so that it's on hand and you can throw it into different things. If you have chicken, you can throw it into pasta. You can throw it in onto a salad. Like you can throw it into a tortilla to make a wrap. You can throw it into like lettuce cups. You know, like just take a protein and you can find 20 different ways to use it. So instead of trying to cook a different protein every single day, just pick a couple. And then protein powders on hand for quick boost, okay? Other protein sources that can boost things, collagen peptides, hemp seeds, chia, flax seeds, all of them are protein sources as well as really good omega sources as well. I didn't add seeds to these protein balls because some people are weird about it, but you could easily add chia seeds to those, and one, you get the protein, you get the fat, and you get added fiber, right? Powerful little guys. And then nut butters. Nut butters are mostly a fat source, but they do have protein as well. Any questions on any of that? Yes.
Is hemp milk the same as hemp seeds for protein?
I don't believe so. I
Might have milk at.
don't, yeah, I know, I just don't know how much protein is in hemp milk. Just like there's not a lot of protein in almond milk. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any advice on protein powders?
I knew that question.
Yeah.
So everybody's favorite question. So I do have a company that I'm partnered with and that I use. It's called Shockley. And they have a very clean protein because the problem with a lot of proteins is the heavy metals. And this one, they do a lot of like third-party testing on it. So if you guys want that information, I can give it to you. For collagen peptides too, Vital Proteins is actually a pretty solid choice. Their protein powders are awful, but their collagen peptides are great. So
Did you mean awful as in they don't taste very
they
good?
don't taste good.
Okay.
Yeah, because I will say it's just there's a lot of protein powders that are like chalky. So yeah, for more of that like smooth texture. Yeah, so I have my like favorite protein, but if you can just get something in there, that would be great. Just yeah, I would be cautious of kind of like generic protein powders. That's why I say that. Like if it's like a Kirkland brand or something like that, just like yeah, look for something a little bit more reputable. And then you guys should also know Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, super high in protein, and not super high in fat either. With Greek yogurt, I always suggest like I'm totally fine with full fat stuff too. I would just get like plain Greek yogurt, and then you can always like add your own honey or just like do like mixing fruit into it, and it's great. I do that for my kiddos. It's just a little bit of honey and some fruit. Boom, done.
So you shouldn't get the reduced fat or the too,
It's fine if you do.
okay.
I will say like a lot of like say Yolk Lights or something like that. They're low calories, but they also have a lot of like added like sweeteners.
Okay.
Um, So if you just kind of get the plain and then add in your
Right.
own stuff, yeah. Any other questions on any of that? Yeah.
I don't know, what would you consider as like a natural sweetener? You hear a lot about monk fruit, yeah, like what would be, what's good sugar versus non-good sugar?
Yeah, so for like kind of low calorie, 0 calorie sweeteners, I definitely like stevia. What's the other one that I'm thinking of? No. But I do like monk fruit. You could even sweeten the protein balls with monk fruit. Coconut sugar, organic cane sugar. Like I'm actually a fan of sugar, like actual sugar versus a lot of like the artificial sweeteners.
So what's like to avoid, do you see sucralose or something, what's the main that's tricky that would really like stay away from that?
I would stay away from sucralose.
Sucralose?
Yes.
And then anything else that you would avoid?
I mean, again, this is where you can start to go down the rabbit hole of things. I would just say things that have like sugar alcohols, that's like your xylitol, erythritol, those can just cause a lot of gut stuff. If anybody's ever eaten like too many sugar-free candies, and then your gut starts to like gurgle, just me. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, sucralose is one that is definitely, it's on my no list. But I don't expect anybody to have that one. Okay, meal planning. So batch cook proteins and veggies. A great thing too, like the veggies I have cut up, like that's great to like prep on a day and just like store in your fridge. So then if it's done and it's there, right, you're more likely to be like, oh, I'll grab that. Then, you know, if those aren't prepped, you're like, oh, well, the potato chips, I just have to put my hand in, you know? So prepping really is big. If you have been on the like, I'm just gonna wing it, I'm just gonna go with the flow. If you don't have like specific goals that you're working towards and you're happy with that, that's fine, okay? There are many seasons of my life where I wing it all the time. But if you're working towards a specific goal, you have to kind of plan and prep and like take the time to do that, okay? Rotate 2 to 3 meals a week. Don't try to make 3 different meals 7 days a week. That kind of meal planning prettiness, nobody has time for, okay? You don't need to be somebody that cooks every single meal on Sunday and has it lined up in the fridge. That's not what I'm saying. But if you keep it to just like 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, it's kind of easier to stick to that. And then by the time you're sick of those meals, switch it to a new one, you know? Maybe it's like Monday through Wednesday, this is your lunch. And then Thursday and Friday, this is your lunch. Still plan and prep your weekend. Please still plan and prep your weekend though too, okay? You can maybe have a little bit of fun on the weekend, but still think through your weekend. Again, if you're like focused Monday through Friday, don't wing it Saturday and Sunday, because that's still a big chunk of your week, okay? What was it? Don't let your weekend be your week end, like W-E-A-K, okay? Use a tracker app just to kind of get a baseline. You don't have to like track every single day, every single morsel of food, but it's great to understand and get a baseline of what you're eating. Because you might be amazed of like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was eating that much fat in a day. Or, wow, I thought I was eating at least 100 grams of protein and I'm only getting in 65. So just use it as information. It's not dictating your worth or your value. I should have said that at the beginning. Like, your worth and value has nothing to do with what you look like. Okay? Nothing. All right? If you're wanting to get stronger and work on your health because you just want to live longer, feel better, feel like yourself again, 100%. But your value and your worth doesn't change if that changes. All right? Stay hydrated. Start the day with water. I even put it on its own line. Eat before having any caffeine. And everybody's like, oh, 1 through 5 looks good. I'll do those. Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, take the time. I generally do a Sunday and a Wednesday prep. And I take time every Saturday to think through the week. It doesn't take a lot of time once you've done it for a bit, but it does take time and intention. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm not going to say that you can just come here, do the workouts, and expect everything to change. You have to put time and energy into food. You have to put time and energy into making sure your sleep is under control. You have to put time and energy into taking care of the inside too, of like doing self-care and all of that as well, all right? So final thoughts is keep it simple, protein, fiber, and water at every meal, all right? If you do that, you're good to go. Plan ahead, but stay a little bit flexible. We all know things get derailed in life. So one, that restaurant guide, if you're like, oh my gosh, we have nothing, we need to pick up food or whatever it is, like, be like, oh, this looks like a great option for us. I'm gonna still like work towards some of my goals, but I'm gonna be a little bit flexible with it today. I also think having good meals on hand, like that are in your freezer that you know, oh, I can throw this together in 5 minutes, are great to have on hand. My husband is the polar opposite of me, okay? I put a lot of effort into nutrition and what I feed my kids and what I feed myself, and God bless him, he will like drive to Taco Bell, or he'll drive to In-N-Out. And I'm like, there is food in the refrigerator. You know, in his mind it's like, oh, like I'm tired, so I'm gonna go drive, you know, to this place. And I'm like, it takes 5 minutes to put it, like, to heat it up, you know? But if you have those things on hand, you don't have the excuse to go out and get something else, right? So it really, like, planning and being prepared is everything, okay? At the beginning of COVID, I wrote, like, how to get the most out of your pantry because nobody wanted to go to the store every day, right? So it's just like if you have a stocked pantry and like a pretty good freezer, you can make a meal, okay? So just have those items on hand. I call them my OS meals, my O meals, and I pull those out a whole lot. All right,
Oh,
here we
good.
go. See, I put it at the end so you guys could eat. I know what I'm doing. All right, so do you guys want to know the trick to energy balls when you are using oats?
Sure.
Put them in your blender. Put the oats in your blender and almost make like an oat flour. It really helps change the consistency and it helps your protein balls not fall apart.
Do you soak your oats?
No. No. They are organic oats.
So
all
you
right.
just blend the oats?
You just blend the oats in a blender and it just kind of makes them into a little bit more like a flour.
Okay.
So they just blend more.
Okay.
Like when it's the whole oats, it's just a little bit of a different mouthfeel.
Okay.
All right. Ranch protein dip.
Try this.
That was pretty good on time. All right, now we can just open it up to questions.
You didn't talk about alcohol. I was hoping you would cover wine.
I could pick your night.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. Pick your night. Here's the thing with alcohol. So alcohol, we all know, has calories. And the other thing with alcohol is it gets processed first and foremost through the body, right? So you drink alcohol, your body stops all other detoxification processes because alcohol is a poison. We like the effects of it, but it's a poison. So your body kind of goes, oh, whoa, shut down everything else, we're gonna detox this. So that's just kind of the thing that we need to keep in mind is that the body it'll stop like digestion, metabolism, right? Your metabolism slows down when we drink alcohol. So that's just the thing to keep in mind. Yeah.
What about just having cocktails on the weekend?
Here's the thing. You have to know what your goals are. And if that is in alignment with what you want, then go for it. I'm not gonna stop that.
You already told me no coffee first thing, now you tell me you can't drink.
It comes down to what do you want? Like I said, we have to make sacrifices if we want a goal, whatever it is. I don't care what the goal is. There are sacrifices that have to be made in one shape or another to reach it. And so, if that goal, my ask, if you have that goal and you know why, and your why is strong enough, then if that goal needed you not to drink alcohol, you'd be like, yeah, this is important, I've got it. If it's like, I like the cocktail, it's the goal, I don't know, you can have the cocktail. I am not somebody that will ever tell somebody you need to do this or you need to do that. But if you come to me and you say, Shannon, I have this goal and I want to get there and here's my reason why and it's really, really important, one of the first things I'm going to ask is, well, how committed are you to that goal? And if somebody says they're an 8, I will not work with them. Because you don't want it. And I can't force it. And I will do a disservice to somebody if I give them the information and they're not really wanting to get there, right? But if they say this is really, really important to me and I need to get to this place, then I'll say absolutely. But here's some of the sacrifices that have to be made. Okay. And I don't care either way. But it takes, what do you want? But if you are living a great life, you're like, I want to get a little bit stronger, I want to pay a little bit more attention to things, cool. Pick up some heavier weights, start to read a couple food labels, prep your food, and then have your cocktails. That works too.
Mm-hmm.
But it just depends on where you're trying to get to.
Talk about intermittent
intermittent fasting, I will say men are able to fast longer than women. Their hormones are like this, right? And ours are like this, kind of. I will say, if you are postmenopausal, you can fast a little bit longer than us ladies that are still menstruating, because our hormones are all over the place, all wackadoodle. And if you're perimenopause, well, that's a whole other discussion, which actually will be touched upon by Swan Medical when they do one of their talks. So when it comes to fasting, I always say the easiest fast to do is overnight, right? Just when you finish dinner, don't eat until you eat breakfast. Everybody can do that. And it should be about 12 hours. I think 12 hours is a very reasonable amount of time, right? If you finish dinner at 7 or 8 and you don't eat again until 7 or 8 the next day, that's a great amount of time to let your body just sit and fast. And it's not really there's really no downside. And then I would say kind of 14 hours if that's comfortable for people and they feel good and they're not forcing it. Then 14 hours. I think anything a little bit longer than that for somebody, I would just have to understand the circumstances and what's going on. I work a lot of times with women and hormones, and so fasting actually oftentimes needs to be pulled back until the hormones are balanced. If that makes sense. Does that kind of answer it? Yeah. But I will say too, if you are trying to eat enough food in a day and you're trying to get quality food in, because I hear it a lot of times of just like, oh, I'm not hungry until later, or I'm just not thinking about it. It oftentimes ends up being that ultimately somebody's undereating. They're actually not getting enough food. And when we're not getting enough food, our metabolism will start to slow down. That basal metabolic rate starts to slow down, oftentimes because we start going into our muscle for that energy. Your body still needs a certain amount of energy every single day, whether or not you're giving it to it. So just keep that in mind too. So as long as you're able to also get all your nutritional needs in whatever that window is, then that kind of could be a little bit better. But oftentimes people do intermittent fasting, and there is kind of a natural decrease in calories, but sometimes it's too much. So yeah. And intermittent fasting can be very personalized. And there is a whole, there can be therapeutic fasting, but that's not the same as intermittent fasting. That is a whole seminar class.
What about seasonings?
Love it.
Garlic,
Love it. All of it.
all of it.
All of it.
How about garlic salt?
Yeah. We need salt. Salt helps keeps us hydrated.
I do a lot of seasoning on
Yeah.
chicken and.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that's oftentimes just a great way to add flavor and also change the profile of how something tastes, right? At the end of the day, chicken is still chicken.
Yeah.
It's how you season it, flavor it. I'm also a big fan of grilling vegetables and roasting vegetables because it brings out a little bit more flavor than just sauteing.
What about pasta? How much can we have or should we have?
So, we need ample amount of carbohydrates every single day. So I'm fine with pasta. I personally am a little bit more of a fan of the kind of lentil chickpea pasta. I personally try to stay as gluten-free as possible for my own health stuff. And I just like that those have a little bit of more protein and fiber in them versus say a traditional wheat pasta. I would just say if it is a traditional wheat, I would look for organic.
Are there any websites that you look to for recipes?
Pinterest. I need to start working on a Shannon approved Pinterest board that I can just disseminate to everybody. But like when I go on Pinterest, a lot of times like if you look up like Whole30 recipes, I hate that she even like was able to coin that, but that's a side note. But like Whole30 recipes, paleo recipes, all of those tend to be pretty wholesome. And then if you're me, a lot of it says healthy food your kid will actually eat.
Yeah.
Because that's my struggle.
Cravings.
Yes.
I get cravings for the oddest foods at the oddest times, and is that your body trying to tell you something, and what should you do about it?
So cravings come from two places. One is that we have a craving because we have an emotional
Well,
need. Another one is that we have a craving because we have a nutritional deficiency. So a lot of people crave chocolate. You're craving magnesium. A lot of times when we're craving like chips and crackers, it's actually salt. So, yeah.
sometimes I just get cravings for just sugar. I mean, just plain
Sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, the old thing is like some fruit.
That's what I usually do,
Yeah.
but I was just wondering why.
Yeah.
What your body's telling you.
Sometimes it could be like if you haven't eaten for a bit or your blood sugar is a little off basis. Sometimes we're craving that sugar because our body's wanting energy. If you guys have ever like not slept well at night, I don't know if you've noticed the next day you're like, give me the carbs. It's your body. When we're sleep deprived, your body's looking for that energy. And carbs, sugar is the easiest form. It's the fastest form to get into your body. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
What if you're craving like peanut butter?
Eat some peanut butter.
Yeah.
What does it mean when you're craving fat, the cheeses and that kind of stuff? Where do you
Sometimes it's just what you want too. Like, it's not always, oh, A is because, it's not a cause and effect necessarily. But sometimes cheese could just be, you're wanting protein.
What kind of peanut butter did you use in your bowls?
I used organic peanut butter. So yeah, just a note, like with peanut butter, make sure that it's peanuts and sea salt.
Peanuts and sea salt.
Like, a lot of times peanut butter has added sugar and even added oils.
Not Skippy.
Not Skippy.
Organic peanut butter.
Organic, yeah. Costco even has an organic peanut butter that they sell. You'll notice organic peanut butter is drippier.
Yeah.
So, like Skippies, you do this with Skippies, you can flip it and it just stays. Organic peanut butter, you do this and it just can drip. It's a natural oil
So
separation.
Costco.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about almond butter?
Great.
That's what
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Same thing is just to look for that it's like almonds or almonds and sea salt.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I do a lot of dairy for protein, and I know you do as well.
Yeah.
Is there any reason to avoid dairy if you have an autoimmune disease and gluten? I know you
So,
said you don't do gluten.
I have an autoimmune, and I did take out like gluten and dairy like strictly for a long time, but my gut's healed a lot, but I find that I don't have any responses to it. So that's the big thing. I think if you're feeling good and things aren't flaring up,
So
then
what would the response be for dairy?
uh,
Is it just like,
it would a lot of times
intestinal
be, yeah, or like just feeling inflammation or achy, sometimes even, or if you're feeling like more tired, that can kind of be signs of an immune response.
If you're having early dinner and if you feel hungry, what are some of the
Yeah.
not so bad taste food?
Yeah, I would definitely say if you're having dinner at like, I don't know, like 5 or so, but not going to bed until like 9 or something like that.
Or if it's staying late.
Yeah. Then definitely have a little something before bed so that, again, blood sugar stabilization, right? So sometimes if we're waking up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, it's because your blood sugar dipped. And so your body's waking you up because it's that cortisol response, that glucose response. And so sometimes it's that blood sugar. So something with like, protein and fat, not a lot of carbs right before bed because it will kind of do that quick energy. So something more with like, sometimes I'll do like Greek yogurt I actually will do like peanut butter and some like berries at night or something like that. And that kind of like helps to guys are my least favorite food. in the world. I've heard it's good. I don't know. I won't try it, but that's
Milk
it.
should be milk.
What?
Milk.
Yeah.
How about nuts? Because I love nuts, but I feel like I eat too many. And so how do you know what is the right amount of nuts?
Yeah, generally like a handful.
One nut, that's it.
Like a handful of nuts. Oh, like how many nuts over
No, what I'm
time?
saying is like if you eat pistachios, one handful, and then you don't eat almonds or anything else,
I
right?
mean, you could have like 2 servings of nuts a day. I think it's just watching truly like how much. Because again, what I talked about earlier, fat is a denser amount, right? So, you know, a handful of nuts, it's about, you know, 150 to 200 calories depending on the nut. And truly like a handful. If you're like me, you get the bag, you're just kind of like, it's good, it's salty, and then you're like, I just ate half the bag and that's like 2,000 calories. You know, so I think it's just that portion sizing when it comes to nuts because it's like chips. They're crunchy and they're easy to do this with, and a lot of us, like, there's this comfort. So I think just watching how much. But no, you can have like 2 servings of nuts, it's fine.
And talking about nuts, what are, I mean, are some nuts healthier for you or better for you or have more sugar? Like,
All the nuts have different nutritional profiles in some ways, but there's no real like bad nuts. I mean, macadamia, Brazil, almond, walnuts, you know, they're all great. They just have different nutritional profiles. But again, that's more of like the nuance.
you should stay away from the salt.
I'm not a no salt person.
Like the salty.
Yeah, unless you truly have like a medical reason that you need to stay away from salt, we actually need salt. But it's more of if you're getting your salt from a lot of prepackaged things, that's not so great. But if you're salting or flavoring things, I think that's fine. You know, pre-salted nuts obviously are gonna be a little bit saltier, but not everybody has time to like roast their nuts and salt them, you know? So it's like, yeah. Again, I'm a real life nutritionist. I'm not out there being like, we'll go buy the organic nuts and then go roast them and get your pink Himalayan sea salt. Like, if you have time to do that, that's fantastic. If you don't, please don't beat yourself up over just getting the already salted nuts, you know? That's my philosophy.
How about electrolytes? Because I read before that you should drink like water with a pinch of
Mhm.
salt, and now everybody talks about like electrolytes and all that. What is the difference?
Yeah, so your electrolytes just help to keep basically homeostasis of your fluids in the body. So like potassium, sodium are the 2 big ones being paid attention to. And if we talk about like hydration, we need salt to be hydrated. Without salt, we kind of will just, everything goes out. So salt does help to hold the water in our cells. And so without it, that's kind of where we can get dehydrated and feel that off balanced. But you don't necessarily have to do electrolytes if you don't want to. But I do find doing like sea salt, you know, if you get in like oranges and avocados are higher in potassium than bananas. So as long as you're also getting like food in, then you don't have to do electrolytes. But we do have like the element supplements, and then Redmond sea salt, they're my favorite sea salt. They also have an electrolyte drink called Relight that I like. It's just not as salty as the elements.
What are your recommendations for leg cramps at night?
What? Leg cramps?
At night?
So oftentimes,
You never have to run off the road.
yeah, so enough fluid throughout the day, and then enough potassium. So again, like bananas, sweet potatoes, avocados.
What about megadoses of magnesium?
So if you take too much magnesium, you're gonna be in the bathroom a lot. So there are also different forms of magnesium. If I do think magnesium is a great supplement if you need just help keeping things going, you know? And so that's gonna be magnesium citrate.
That's what I,
Yeah.
and I get terrible leg cramps.
So 200 to
And that
400
helps.
milligrams of magnesium. And yeah, magnesium at night can also help
Yeah.
with relaxing the muscles.
Interesting.
They also have like magnesium cream that you could like rub on it too. Can that help that? That's why like Epsom salt is, you know, the salt, but it's also that magnesium that helps just relax the body. Any other questions?
Vitamins. Should we take vitamins, supplements, or is this enough?
I mean, probably yes. What exactly you need can become a little bit nuanced again. But like, you know, a good multivitamin is always a good place to start. Yeah.
On an average, how many calories do we burn in a Spenka class?
That definitely varies. That varies based on just kind of your metabolic rate. Like somebody could probably burn 250, and then other people could be burning 800, depending. I would say most are probably like 3 to 4, I would say. Yeah.
What about probiotics? Do you recommend taking some, or just kind of having a balanced diet should be?
Having a balanced diet, definitely getting in like prebiotic foods, which is a fancy word for specific fibers, right? So if we're getting in fibers, and then I'll do yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, that kind of stuff has the natural probiotic strands in it. I do think gut health is really important though. So I suggest most people to be on some type of probiotic and gut support, because if your gut isn't functioning properly, everything else is gonna kind of feel that impact from it for sure. Like your gut is the gateway to your body if you think about it, right? You eat food, it goes down your esophagus right into this. This is where what is food? At the beginning I said food is basically your messengers. It's how your body communicates. So if they're not able to get into the body properly, the whole messaging system's messed up, right? So we want things to come in and then we want them to move out.
So there's so much talk about gut health now.
Yeah.
How do you know if your gut is not healthy?
So bowel movements is a really great way to know, like seriously, your bowel movements is a fantastic way to understand the health of your gut. If you're having, like I say 1 a day is kind of the bare minimum, to be honest. 2 to 3 is ideal. And then you want bowel movements that are easily coming out. You're not having to strain. You're not having, right? You're not there for a long time, unless you bring your phone with you. And you want it to be, you guys, you would be amazed at the things I see, okay? So you want it to be formed, right? You don't want it to be loose. You don't want it, if things are floating, that could be actually a sign that like your liver gallbladder isn't working properly. So you want it to sink, ladies and gentlemen. If it floats, you're not digesting fat properly. And yeah, so think of a snake. And then if you're not somebody that goes regularly every single day, that is something to look at. And if you feel like you need coffee in the morning to have that bowel movement, that is also an issue. And nobody wants to say anything.
Changing topics, how about creatine?
Oh, creatine. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it. All it really does is help to bring water into your cells, so it makes your muscles look more full. It can help with performance. It can help you recover faster from workouts. It can help you lift a little bit heavier and put on muscle a little bit quicker. 5 grams of monocreatine.
5 grams of what?
5 grams of monocreatine
Per day?
per day.
What happens when you stop
You'll lose a little bit of the water, but oftentimes your muscle mass is not affected because it's just the water that it's bringing intercellular. So it's bringing the water into your cells. So it shouldn't affect your actual muscle mass. It'll just affect your water.
So do you recommend it or not?
Totally fine to take.
Yeah.
Totally fine to take. Yeah.
Why take it? Just taking water.
Yeah, some people, they really don't like the feel or the look of it, and they don't appreciate, you kind of have a 5-pound jump in weight, and it's just water. It is just water, it is not fat, everybody gets scared.
But that levels off, that's just the additional.
That's the
risk.
initial, yeah, you don't keep, it's like you kind of have this like 5 pounds that it holds, and then if you keep taking it, generally it kind of dissipates. But some people are like, yeah, I don't want that, and that's fine. A lot of people that are doing like fitness competitions and bodybuilders, like everybody is taking creatine. And this is also where this is the nutrition and health space. It's like right now it's creatine's the hot topic, right? Like a couple years ago, everybody was talking about ketones, and so it's just kind of, this is also like creatine isn't new. It's just the buzz right now. And so if you're interested in something and it fits what you're working towards, and you've done a little bit of research on it, and it's something you want to do, go for it. But I also just caution to not get caught up in the noise or feeling like, well, this person's doing this and this person's doing that, so I'm going to do all of it. Just like be like, okay, is this something that aligns with the goal I'm working towards? Do I feel like it would be beneficial for me? And if the answer is yes, then go for it. But if you're like, I just feel like I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever it is, then just think about it. Because otherwise you're going to be doing 20 different things all at the same time. Done it. Anything else? Everybody that did their in-body scan, did they kind of understand it? Did they feel like they understood the goals that they're kind of working towards? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it is too, like, kind of focus on that muscle mass. We all could benefit from putting on more lean muscle. It helps keep our structure, it helps, keep us healthy, and let kind of the weight number or anything else kind of be on the back side of that. Again, positive in, right? Gaining muscle, becoming stronger, feeling more confident. Like that's kind of how I like to write goals, is like, what's the positive that I'm trying to get? Because if you focus on like what you can't eat or what you need to lose or the calories you need to get, like sometimes that just becomes a little too much and it can feel overwhelming, and then we're less likely to stick with something. So if we can, that's why I say, like, can I simplify nutrition enough that we can stick to it? Because if you complicate it, that's when you start being like, this is too hard, I can't keep up with this, it's too complicated, it's too time consuming, so then we don't do it. So if we can keep it simple, then we can kind of stick to it and make it more of that lifestyle, right? And so if you just figure out your protein and you focus on that, and you do that for 8 weeks, that is a really big foundational block you just laid down. And then maybe after those 8 weeks, you go, okay, I feel really good about this. I think I want to start upping my water. And you spend a good portion of time focusing on that. Now you have an even bigger, strong foundation. If we try to do everything at one time, it just feels a little overwhelming, and then it's kind of like you didn't mix that cement well enough, and so now your foundation is kind of cracking. So don't get overwhelmed. Pick one thing. Or pick one thing a week over the next 8 weeks to focus on. And try to build it that way. Kind of makes it a little bit easier to digest. Pun intended. Anything else? Great. A couple of things too.
having office hours. Tuesday, I'm gonna be in studio at 10 a.m., just kind of like out in the lobby. If you have questions, if you need help, anything like that. And then Wednesdays at 7:30, I'm gonna be opening up just like a Zoom room, and you can pop in and ask any questions that you guys want as well. And that'll be every single week for the next 7 weeks. Tuesday at 10 a.m., Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. I have to work around children.
Those darn kids.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank
you guys.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you. I should probably stop this. Like an hour.